next lecture now with Stephen Calvinavia, titled the Design Management, Deploy Design Resources to Help You Reach Your Business Objectives. Thank you again, Stephen, with being with us today, and we are ready to go.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mohammed. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you, everyone. Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you might be. First of all, I want to thank the previous speaker, Rafael, for that interesting presentation, integrating project management and sustainability. My topic today, as Mohammed mentioned, is going to be a little bit different, but looking to dive right in and kick things off. Want to kick things off. So my name is Stefan Klamaneva. I work at Park. I'm going to be talking to you today about design management, something that all creative organizations really should be making sure they take advantage of and learn about. And so I'm super excited to be sharing this this evening. And just to kind of cover what we're going to be doing, I come from the Park Consultancy. We've been around for 25 years. A little bit about myself. So again, like I said, Stefan Klamaneva. We had the opportunity to connect through the World Design Organization. I'm currently a partner at Park. And my background, I sort of talk about myself as being a creative hybrid, engineering, industrial design, innovation, sustainability, and management. So I've worked for the likes of IBM. I've worked for Dassault Systems in the software space. At the end of the day, we do some really, really cool stuff at Park. But what we're going to be talking to you about today is design management, right? So before we do that, I'm going to do a short introduction so you can get a sense of where we come from and why we know and why we believe that we can talk to you about these sort of things. So we consult, we educate, we coach, we inspire. Design and architecture is where Park sort of connects those things, the creative side, with business. And we bring these together for better leadership, better business, and a brighter future. So if I were to look at a little bit of those 4 areas that we focus in on, we talk about Park Consulting. That is the kind of where we get the history, the education, and the experience to be able to share case studies with you around architectural leadership or architectural management and design management. So we have been a consultancy in this space for the last 25 years. Since 1988, we've been building and scaling design capabilities and creative capabilities for organizations. We've worked with the likes of these organizations that you see on the bottom. And our 4 main areas here that actually operate across every discipline of design and innovation strategy, design and innovation organization. So how do you set up your organization to be as effective as possible? Ways of working, so optimization of the tools that you should be using, the processes that you should be using for effective leadership and design, and then the culture. What do you need to do to set up the optimized culture for your organization? Another thing of what we do is we do a lot of coaching. So I've been coaching startups for many, many years, more than 7 years. But we also do this for our clients. And we really try to make sure that we focus on this triangle here, connecting emotional intelligence, creative intelligence, and business intelligence together. It's very important to really, really drive those 3 together. We find that time and time again, this is the balance that's often desperately needed in businesses like architectural and interior design organizations such as yourselves. The other thing that we do is we do connections. So we create events where we create customized retreats, and in some cases very focused on specific topics that's dear and near to my heart. One example is the Design for Humanity. We talk about our focus on sustainability and the triple bottom line. And I'm not going to get into these details. If you have any specific questions for me after the end of the presentation, feel free to ask. But the main thing is we want to be inspirational in terms of how to drive change. Just like Rafael talked about in terms of his focus, which is project management and sustainability, we kind of bring design and innovation, the creative space, and the management of that and sustainability, right? And last but not least, the area of topic that we're going to be covering today stems from our work from our Park Academy. So this is Our promise to really help professionalize organizations along their creative businesses, whatever those may be, to maximize the value of design, creativity, and innovation. We help creative professionals to advance in their career, and we educate and train in the area of design management and design leadership. That's what we do, okay? And we've done it for organizations across all aspects of design. And we'd really try and focus on the things between the design management and design leadership. It's two sides of the same coin, always thinking of content, people, and processes. Okay, why? It's really important because we really think and we believe, and this is the case with all aspects of design, including the architecture and the built environment. We want to make sure we have more impact with design, connecting the creative strategies with our stakeholders, making sure that ROI is clearly visible to our clients, and being able to, in the case of, let's say, a large architectural firm, being able to connect and communicate that value to top management. What do? We provide programs. One of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you today is exactly that, a cross-company program. This is one of the modules, a very short summary of one of the modules that we cover in our programs, but we can do these at a cross-company program or within an organization if you have a lot of architects or designers or engineers working together. The kinds of organizations that we've used, that have used our services, that we've done this before with, include where we all started, which was with Lego. The Lego Design Academy, if you've heard about that before, is something that we have created ourselves. That's what we've done, right? We did that for Lego. And so as we move forward, for example, I'm speaking to you today because of ArchiNet, right? We have many partners like ArchiNet where we're here today across Europe and the United States. And we'd love to connect with you today to sort of see how we can support your effort across the Arab world. I'd love to see how we can do that. We have many 2,000 plus graduates and alumni of our programs, and we're really excited to see how we can get you part of that alumni network so you can continue to benefit from what we do. So to dive back into the specifics of what we're going to be covering today, like I mentioned, we're talking about design management. So deploying the design resource, the creative resources, the architectural resources to help you reach your business objectives, right? So how do we do that? If we look at design management, we really need to make sure that we're highlighting and we're taking advantage of and we're optimizing all of the things that you see around here. So it's really important to really explore all aspects of design management when we look at this: design and innovation, the customer experience, the organization in your company, your process. How do you communicate with your clients? For example, design briefing. How do you conduct design research in your projects? What kind of resources do you leverage across all that board? So you have to be doing this holistically. That's the kind of focus that we like to drive. In our content today, I'm going to be going through these sort of various topics here so you can get a sense in a very short amount of time the kinds of things that we talk about when we mean what are the kind of skills that you need to master to do effective design management in your organization, right? Okay, so as an introduction, what is design management? Well, first of all, we want to realize and point out to you that design management is extremely important for business, but it's only when it's managed well. And this requires professional skills. So unfortunately, we see a lot of organizations that really stumble in this area because they have not been formally trained. They have mastered their craft, their masters of their university, let's say architecture, interior design, product design, art, furniture, but they are not able to do this effectively internally as a management side of things. So management if companies that manage design effectively and efficiently attain better performance. It's proven across the board time and time again. Whether you look at the Design Management Institute, which has this index that they measure design-led organizations and very effective architectural firms such as SOM or Shop Architects out of New York. They are doing this extremely well, right? It's a managed process. So we need to make sure that design management is communicated as the profession of managing design. And that's why when I talk about design management, I really point out the fact that it applies to all disciplines. And I have to emphasize in my knowing my audience today, that includes architects, it includes structural engineers, right? Civil engineers, it includes planners. It's all creative industries, right? So if you're looking at this graph, this object here, this little picture, you can see architectures at the top here. It overlaps with a lot of things. And as we're building smarter homes, it's going to become even more blurry, right? So it's even more important that we drive effective management of the process. So one of the things that we need to make sure that we're looking at is how do we do that? The biggest challenge we have that we see time and time again in organizations across those disciplines is the inability of communicating in a language that a business person will understand, right? So as an organization grows, you need to be able to communicate the value of the design, right? So it's no longer about shipping tons and tons of paper, A0 size sketches and plans, but it's about the value that you're sharing, right? Because it's more important than ever to communicate that. And it's the business value and the ROI should be communicated in that way as well. So we talk about a definition, there's a couple different definitions. They're all correct. It's just a matter of how your particular business is set up, and maybe you can use all three or versions of them. The first definition we talk about is the deployment of design resources to pursue corporate objectives. So really think of it this way. It's a way of translating those resources into business metrics that non-designers can understand, right? So that's really important to communicate. So the bigger the organization, the more layers, and sometimes you have to be very clear in the way that you're communicating the work that's being done. Second definition, design management is the interface between design and other business disciplines. So again, if you're just a small architectural firm, it's you and your partner doing just pure architecture, and there's not a whole team that you're managing, maybe you're doing everything yourself. But as you grow as an organization, or you're part of a large architectural, maybe a design build function company, you have all of these functions in that company. So you need to make sure that you interface effectively, right? The third definition is design management is about aligning, delivering, and innovating design results for great user experiences. So when we're talking about the future of architecture, the future of smart buildings, the future of sustainable net zero cities, for example, how do we do that, right? It's about that ultimate experience, right? So it's about the results that you can deliver to the organization and ultimately to the person that's going to be, or the people that are going to be experiencing what it is that you build. Now, I'm going to take a sort of focus a little bit on the career, because here a team and an organization is made up of people. So you need to be able to understand how you should be managing your own career personally, and the decision that you make in terms of becoming, let's say, a master craftsman, a deep focus in architecture, or becoming more focused on the management side of things is possible, but you need to be deliberate and specific about how you want to approach this, right? So most managers are trained designers growing from hands-on junior designers or architects into the management function. They're never actually taught how to do this, right? So, the reality is what we do here is we really focus on making sure that those folks that are going to continue to work and can't afford, let's say, to go back to school full time, they come to us because we can help them drive these things. And what could it look like? Let me give you some examples in terms of different companies. They're not architectural firms in this case, but depending on the size of the organization and the type of culture you'll see, they have this very similar structure. So in the case of a really well-known organization, you may have heard them before, called Lego, you can sort of see that as you start off as a junior architect or designer, you might have a small path, but at some point you have the ability to kind of move over to the left and become more of a generalist, where you have focusing on managing people, and on the right you kind of become that master craftsman, that really professional architect that just focuses on the design itself and not managing people. Same thing in some other organizations. If you look at something a little bit bigger, there's a lot more areas that you can start off with, and you can kind of move across. But as you get towards the top, you're becoming more creative director, design director, right? And then a VP of the organization, or principal, right? Sometimes in architectural firms, we call them partners, right? So you can sort of see what we're dealing with here. Finally, another example from a completely separate organization type, CPG, is Procter & Gamble. You can sort of see on the left-hand side, it's very much the master craftsman on the left, and on the right, you see folks that are focusing more on the management and the leadership side, right? So these are important. It's really important to kind of really get an opportunity to kind of understand as a junior architect, maybe, or interior designer, or civil engineer, for example, where your organization, where you fall in the organization, and what type of thing do you see yourself doing in the future, so that you can properly define what's important, right? So I want you to also think about your sort of career path, and you can download this article, you can find it, or you can go to our website and you can sort of see an article that I wrote for WDO called The Road to Design Leadership, right? So I covered a lot of stuff here. I also wanted to give you some examples of the daily practice. So I already covered this slide before a little bit, but I want you to see it a little bit more in depth. You can see, again, all those boxes represent the different areas and things that you should be thinking about, if not already, and try to make sure that they're at the same level across the organization. So what we typically do in companies that are trying to make that transformation happen from within is we audit them, and we sort of see, well, how well defined is your briefing process for your client? Is it very ad hoc, or do you have a process that's repeatable time and time again that allows you to compare and to be effectively communicating that brief, or getting that brief from your client, right? How do you conduct design research for particular projects, right? How do you manage your resources? All those things. Do you have a well-defined process from beginning to end? What does that look like? So that's sort of at a high level how we look at things from both a management perspective and a leadership perspective across. And at the end of the day, it's all about designing, sharing and creating design or architectural value. One of the other things that I wanted to highlight is the different types of management. So when we're talking about sort of more, the basics versus the strategic high level, there's these three levels, right? So at the top, you want to be talking about strategic design. There are many different levels of where design management sort of takes place. It can happen at the strategic level, it can happen at the tactical level, or it can happen at the operational level. Understanding what level design manager is acting is important. And each level, unfortunately, has its own dynamics. So, and there's obviously links between these, right? Everything decided at the strategic level should, through the tactical level, trickle down to the operational level, right? So if we were to define these a little bit more, you can sort of see strategic design management involves the creation of the strategic long-term vision and planning for design, and deals with defining the role of design within the organization. Tactical is focused on the organization of design resources and design processes. On the operational side, it's concerned with the management of individual design projects and the design teams themselves. In some cases, we've called that, you might see the term design ops, and that's something that's coming along very rapidly these days. So now I'm going to give you some examples so you can get a sense of what companies have done to sort of make those transformations happen, right? And I'm going to start giving you some examples within the industry, but also I'm going to reach out outside of this industry today so you can get a sense of what other companies are doing, okay? And I'm going to talk about it from a business objective, the role of design, and then how do you sort of apply that design management principle. So first example is from the sort of interior design side of things. So bathroom fixtures, Spanish company called Roca. Their business objective was, focusing on their inability to have operational excellence across the board, with their manufacturing, right? But with costly, inflexible production lines that struggle to accommodate innovation, it's only time until the Far East organizations were able to supersede Roca in the marketplace. So to cope with the competition, they focused on design leadership, branding, and innovation. So in this case, the focus of design was really to formalize that new strategy. So they initiated an aspiring program of projects that introduced managers and workers to topics such as design research, concept development, branding, and platform development. So these are projects that run in parallel to connect the operational excellence program where relevant. So, that's sort of how they would be able to go about this. And then the design management side of things, led by design director, Roca Design manifests as a sort of a regular design department and an innovation lab that is located offsite. So they're secluded physically. So they allow, even though they're separate, they are allowed to work together, but don't interact on the day-to-day basis. So having been able to ship that upstream innovation side more upfront, design now is a far more mature department that allows the collaboration and cooperation with other organizations such as marketing, production, HR, and IT. And in this case, it's a mature organization, and the design director reports directly to the CEO. Okay, so another example, completely, like I said, outside of this industry, but in sports equipment, maybe you've heard of it. It's a French company called Decathlon. For them, it was about vertical integration, and that was their strategy for success. So in the role of design, they were a large company, and they wanted to operate at the same time very lean. So they focused on product, packaging, brand, and retail design. And their leanness is expressed in their short time to market, their design process, and low design development costs. From a design management perspective, actually, I wanted to kind of create some connection here with a company that you may have heard of. So Frank Gehry, about 23 years ago or so, created Gehry Partners, Gehry Technologies, where they actually became Frank Gehry realized that he needed to have an organization that could build the crazy designs or architectural inspirations that he thought about, right? So they were vertical. That's another example of why Decathlon is something that we should be thinking about, because it's vertically integrated. The same way like a design build architectural design firm, construction firm is today, right? So the same sort of thing here. The idea that we wanted to highlight here is in their design management, they integrated design very closely to the individual brands. So if you're a big architectural firm and you're focusing on very different verticals, retail versus let's say F&B versus hospitality, you can sort of make sure that you have a strong design director that connect all of those verticals together and leverage the economies of scale. That's what I would highlight here. Last example I wanted to highlight here is a architectural firm that, in a sense, again, just to kind of draw that direct relationship here, provides an example for the kinds of things that you guys can be doing in helping your journey to a more mature design management function within your company. So here's Parmastelisa, who worked with us and has done 3 different programs to train all of their employees. And these are the kind of the 10+ roles that we've trained over the years, from an architect all the way to a factory manager, right? And the reason why we did this is to make sure, again, like I said in the very beginning of my presentation with that graphic, is to be able to communicate effectively across those different disciplines and all be able to talk about the value of that creativity that you bring as architects or designers. Here's an example of the programs that we created. You can sort of see the different modules that we have, and that's included design management, design leadership, quality, the process itself, design value, and design briefing, right? And these are all custom programs that were developed specifically for this particular architectural firm. And that's what we do, and we create in-company programs. If you look at the specifics here, you can sort of see a little bit more detail in terms of how this was developed for this particular company. But we also have cross-company programs where you can join our generic program to kind of sort of understand this. And what we try to do in every case is we build the relevance that's necessary across the board for all the companies the company types that are participating in our organization, in our training programs. So I've covered a lot of content in a short amount of time. I wanted to give you opportunity to sort of take some notes for some additional areas of study, because we only have 30 minutes here to kind of talk about stuff today. So in this case, there is more to study in the built environment space. I would say take a look at Raymond Turner's book. Great example of talking about design leadership in the context of architecture, the built environment. He's responsible for doing a lot of the design for British Airways terminals and the Heathrow Airport, and tons of buildings across the world, and has worked at the London Business School, right, as a professor. But here's his quote: "Urgent change is needed to the way we train, organize, and regulate those responsible for the design of our built environment." So I would certainly recommend that you take a look at his book. And here's some additional things that you can take a look at that are more generic: creative-based design and creative management across the board. On the left, you see these various books. On the right, if you haven't been to the AIA.org website recently, I certainly suggest that you take a look at that. I mentioned the DMI Institute, Design Management Institute organization in a previous comment earlier in the slide. And then you see Wikipedia, and then our Park Connections and our Park Academy information. So to wrap things up today, I just wanted to show a quick visual of the program that we have that's accessible to you. So, besides the world-class content, you've got a very, very, very quick sneak peek of that today with the slides I just mentioned. We're also very proud of how the online customized learning platform is also available. So here's an example of what that is today. And we have 18 different modules that we cover across the board, including sustainability. And there's tons of content that's available for you to take a look at. I even have a couple of white papers that I can drop in the chat for you to take a look at afterwards. And so to end, the thing that I wanted to end with is design management is too important to leave it to designers or architects only, because they typically don't have the skills. But also, design management is too important to leave it to managers only, because typically they just have an MBA and they have no clue about how a creative industry, creative agency works. So professional design management is needed to truly exploit the value of design. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen, for this impressive presentation, and we are excited to learn more about it. We have a couple questions. We have it in our group. What are some common misconceptions about design management, and how can a better understanding of this field benefit businesses?
Well, the misconceptions are that, oh, I just get an MBA and I'm good to go, or that I can go through and learn on the job, right? The challenge we have with this is that, unfortunately, architectural programs today and design programs today, especially in the undergraduate space, provide no management skills. And they don't provide management skills that are relevant to the creative space. So the biggest challenge, Mohammed, that I find is we're sending them out to create beautiful things. They start their career making wonderful designs, right? Beautiful buildings, but that doesn't teach them how to design the business, how to design their team, how to build an effective organization. So that's the biggest challenge, because you're focused on, oh, I want to go start my own architectural firm, my own agency, right? But you go off, but you're never given the tools to actually manage that, right? So that's the thing that we have. You all pick it up on the way. It's so complex these days to be able to effectively manage a organization like this, that you really need to take the time and build those skills. What I also say, though, is that in some cases, you can learn along the way if you have a strong leader in your organization that you can learn from, right? And that's where, again, having a role like a strong mentor, or let's say the leader of a company that takes the time to really build his team, his or her team up, is what we really need in today's organizations. So I would say that those are the main misconceptions. There's probably more that we don't have time to cover.
It's okay. So last question. How can a company ensure that the values and goals of its design team are aligned with broader objectives and culture of the organization?
Great question. Well, that's where we need to have, again, going back to that first slide that I talked about, is how do you build an open channel? How do you build the connections between the creative team and the business, or the business, right? So if you have a design leader that can help translate those requirements from the creative side to the business side, that's what you need, right? How do you do that? You have to do that with effective KPIs. So architecture has evolved over the last 2 or 3 decades. Again, with the advent of digital modeling, BIM, the value proposition has also changed. I talk to friends of mine that are in their 60s that are design partners or founders of their own design architectural firms, and they still think in terms of volume of paper. How much, it's like a weight thing. Oh, there's a lot of value here because it's very heavy, right? Well, that's no longer the case, right? We have to be thinking of what are the KPIs. So for example, in shop architects, I'll give you an example of a old client of mine out of New York City. They now are able to communicate the value, the vision of that master plan in using AR, right? So you can have the client fly through the final view of the building before you've even, dug one single hole. So there's an example of the shifting ways that we're communicating and building value, and showing the value of a particular vision earlier on, or in a creative new way through technology, for example. But I would end with the most important thing is to be able to showcase the KPIs, right? What is the return on investment? If you're focusing on sustainable, let's say net zero buildings, how soon will you be able to reap that benefit? What's the break-even point? What is, in how many years will you start being able to recoup the investment that you made up front in maybe additional, maybe geothermal energy, or a LEED Platinum or LEED Gold certification, right? How soon will you be able to do that? So you need to have those key metrics set up in place to be able to manage the expectations along the way.
Stephen, thank you again for accepting our invitation and being with us in the 4th Arab Architecture Week. I'm looking for the collaboration very soon.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Take care.